Hey guys, this is May. So what you're watching is the second of 9 clips from my webinar on the 20th of November, The Second Wave, It's Not Over Yet. Now in this video, I zoom in into the situation in the United Kingdom. So some people have been aware that for the last few months, the UK has been facing some shortages. And I think a lot of people are concerned about, is this situation going to continue in the UK? So in this video, I will sort of give you the timeline of what to expect in the upcoming 2 years. But for people who do not live in the UK, what I'd like you to pay attention to is some of these patterns of the solutions that banks and financial institutions are looking at as people get more and more concerned about banking difficulties around the world. So without any further ado, here goes.
Because I'm going to start with this, right? So if COVID was bad, but then the economy seems to be slogging along and it seems to be in recovery. So that's one of the biggest questions that people have. If COVID ends, yes, that means that, we can go back to the office, everything's going to go back to normal and business is going to get back. Now, I started talking about this more than 2 years ago, and we've been warning people that it is not going to be the case. So if you are planning for that, you might want to revisit your plans. Okay, so I'm going to begin with the UK for 2022. Now, if you've been reading the news, now UK is having some problems right now because apparently Brexit is making a lot of problems with the supply of things like fuel and food shortages in the UK right now, mainly because a lot of the low-wage, low-income workers from other countries are not able to get into the UK like the way they used to. So it's created some very interesting patterns that we see right now. The public is making fun of the fact that supermarkets have run out of supplies. So they've even resorted to putting cardboard printouts just to make the shelves not look so empty. All right. So guys, among the people who are watching here, is there anybody who lives in the UK or you've actually seen this happen? Just show some response. And this is actually happening in the UK right now. And a lot of these, the gas stations have run out of gas. So if you drive your car there, the gas pumps have run dry because all the truck drivers have disappeared from the UK. So this is the basis of what is going on right now. Now, what you are seeing on the screen is going to be the first of many, many astrology PowerPoint slides that you are going to see. Now, before I go further, I want to assure you that I'm well aware that you do not know astrology. The majority of you have no idea what those symbols mean, and me putting it on the screen is not to teach you astrology. And trust me, you will not learn astrology in 3 hours. Yeah, but it is mainly to show you that everything that I'm putting on these PowerPoint slides are not of my invention. That means I simply am telling you what exactly the story that the planets are telling. So I will show you what I'm talking about and I will convert it into English for you, okay? So that you don't have to worry about not understanding what's happening. So this is a pattern in the UK that started right in the middle of this year. From 7th of May, it already started, and a lot of businesses became unstable because the supplies were not stable. So there are a lot of resources that are supposed to be provided by external parties didn't come in. And therefore, it meant that there were a lot of these about turns. People might have promised you, those of you who have a lot of business dealings or your career requires you to connect with people in the UK, you might realize that they're not delivering on their goods as best as they used to be. Now, there are also multiple other patterns where from early this year, from March this year, there are a lot of restrictions, there are slowdowns in a lot of domestic situations. So this kind of domestic situation doesn't mean your family and your home. It can also be the employees that are there, the goods and the tools that you have always relied on to get your work done. That suddenly people are being sorted and differentiated. Whether you are British or you're not British, whether you are from some other country that you're not allowed to come into my country right now. So that's where you see the sorting and differentiating. Things are slow, they don't move, and a lot of contracts and agreements have become blocked. So this is very important because it will lead to more financial backlash. So what has the response been so far is that so far it's all about showing that we have gained power and value. And so there's a bit of ego. It's like, oh, this is what we've always dreamed of. Wasn't this the plan? This is Brexit, right? And also that if this was a creative product, that now we are seeing the result of a creative idea, and this would have been the strongest in the middle of this year. Now, I know it's very hard to follow the timeline, so I'm going to show you something shortly, okay? But the Boris Johnson has said that the supply crunch is good for wages. Okay, so that means it means that there will be more jobs available to the British people. Now, I'm not saying he's wrong, but I'm also showing you that this is the effect that it has on the people on the ground in the UK. So just in case you were trying to write down those dates, don't worry. Okay, what I'm going to show you is easier to see this on a timeline when I have the color bars put out. So throughout today, as I look at multiple countries, I will put out the timeline like this. So what you look for is, can you see here, J22 tells you this is January of 2022. And I will always start from November, which is where we are right now. So if you look at the UK, things are slow. There's a bit of the ego going on. But the unstable developments in business will last all the way until March. So which means that if some of you are expecting this instability to sort of disappear in the next couple of weeks or so, no luck there, okay? It's going to go on for actually a lot longer than March, right? So let's look at 2022 now. Next year, what can we expect from the UK? And even for people who don't do business with the UK, you might want to pay attention to this because I think it's going to greatly affect you and your finances. Okay, so the first thing that is, if you see a line cutting across like that on the number 5 and number 11th house, this placement is a clash between those who are the creative people, such as the business people, and Parliament. So there are some disagreements there. And because these agreements are not sorted out, what comes out here as a result of it is a financial loss. So you find that next year, starting from the 23rd of February, just round the corner, and notice that it will last for almost an entire year. And what I've written here is that growth and business are slow. There's going to be financial and job losses. The labor crunch will persist. The material shortage will persist. There will be a lot of clashes between business and Parliament, and it will be strongest in the third and fourth quarter of next year in the UK. And then on top of that, now this is where it's going to start affecting everyone else, not just people in the UK. Now, when there is a line that crosses between number 2 and number 8, in astrology, we call this the money axis. And in a country's chart, this will start affecting things like their currency, their banking systems, how the government is dealing with money. And this is where it starts to affect international trade. Okay, so the pattern here is that if this problem is not solved, then the outcome that comes out of here seems to be that people become very innovative. So what I've written here is that the banks and the financial institutions, because the problem is not solved and it goes on for a very long time, then people are going to have to find some creative way to deal with the fact that the country is hemorrhaging money. So that as you can see here, the start date is on the 27th of May, and this is a situation that will last for about a year. Now, what I want to explain to a lot of people, especially if you are new here, is that the start date doesn't mean that on this day, on the 27th of May, something happens. So please don't send my team an email going like, hey, it's 27th of May, how come this thing didn't happen? Well, there's a reason why the range is an entire year, because I think, especially if you're looking at world astrology, things don't happen in one day. They take months, weeks to play out. So it's going to affect things like the banks, the money that they owe to people, loans, reserves. And I've written here financial losses, the truth is revealed, because I don't think that a lot of people understand just how bad the situation is, especially if the media is not telling you. So by the time you get informed about it, it will come as a shock to a lot of people. And also that it will result in a very innovative handling of monies. This is strongest in the third quarter of next year. So let me show you how this will play out. Now, the reason why I say that the instability doesn't stop in March is because from February onwards, I've written here promises unfulfilled, financial and job losses. So even as of this moment, they tell you that, oh, we are going to sort it out, we're going to get the truck drivers. I'm not sure about that. And even if they solve the truck driver problem, then they haven't solved a lot of infrastructure issues. So if you want to get more information about this, please go talk to a proper consultant or a economist or whatever, okay? Maybe it's just an astrologer. But if I've also highlighted where the hardest period is going to be. And also we see that so it drags on for a while. By the end of May, the banks and financial institutions will get very creative. And by July, you're going to see some of these very creative ideas being talked about. Now, why it is time for you to pay attention, even though you may not live or work or do business with the UK? Because ever since the air era has started, haven't you guys noticed that ideas have a very uncanny way of passing from one country to another? So that means, just conveniently using COVID as an example, one country locks down, everybody locks down, right? One country says vaccine and another country says vaccine. And some people say, well, we start firing people who are not vaccinated, and other countries start doing the same thing too. So please pay attention to what's happening in the UK. Right. And so when all these ideas start being bandied around, and what you want to pay attention to is when things stack up. So just about the early part of October is when I think they might come to some decisions that will affect a lot of people, not just in the UK. Now, the question that I think is on a lot of people's minds is that, is the UK preparing for a financial crisis? Okay, and here is where I want to introduce something that I've done in my research. I did a lot of research for this webinar because I wanted to know what might that thing in October be. And I'm proposing a possibility. Okay, so I'm introducing a concept to you today, which is called a bail-in. Now, a lot of people understand what a bailout is, because if you recall back in 2008, 2009, they took taxpayers' money to bail out the banks who were insolvent. So the banks owe money and the banks got no money to pay, right? It's really that simple. So what exactly is a bail-in? And it basically, when the bank owes money and they can't pay, right now they will cancel the debt that is owed to creditors and to depositors. In case this is not clear, a depositor is a person who puts money in the bank, people like you and me, yeah? And it also means that with a bail-in, the bank will use the money of the unsecured creditors, including depositors and people who buy bank bonds, and then they will convert the money that they owe you into equity, which means they tell you, oh, now, okay, I'm not going to give you that money anymore, but you can have shares in the bank. And the obvious risk to bank depositors is the possibility of losing a portion of your deposits. Guys, I'm not joking, right? So if you want to look carefully at the words here, and please do your own research, yeah? May is just an astrologer, I'm not a banker. So the thing is, if you think that this is a new thing, well, it's been done already. So bank bail-ins have been already used in Cyprus, and the bail-in policy was instituted, and it forced depositors who put more than 100,000 euros to write off a portion of their holdings. So people who kept a certain amount of money in the bank had to pay the price. Now, with the banking systems in many European countries distressed by low or negative interest rates, more bail-ins are a strong possibility. Now, obviously, this thing is being centered right now in Europe, but like I said, don't assume that these ideas are not going to spread, okay? And what happened in July this year, just a few months ago, the Bank of England published, listen to this, an operational guide on executing bail-ins. So it's quite helpful. It provides practical information on exactly how the bank is going to execute a bail-in when necessary. So, and the good news here is that you can totally verify everything that I'm saying because they have very helpfully published the PDF online, but you can very easily search these keywords and you can read the whole document online or on your own, but please do this after the webinar, okay? Please stay here, I got more important things to tell you.
When the topic of bail-ins was introduced during the webinar, we had a huge response from the audience. Now, I want the audience to be very clear that the astrology chart does not specifically refer to bail-ins in any specific country because there isn't a planet for bail-ins. Now, the reason why bail-ins was discussed in the webinar is to raise the awareness that this is one of the solutions that banks and financial institutions have explored and are exploring as a way of solving some of the world's financial problems. So I would like to remind everybody to please do your research, find out more from a true professional in this field. So please continue watching and go on to the third clip where we look into the financial situation of the United States of America.